Welcome to Big Daddy Storytime. We're reading Walt Disney's Pinocchio, A Nose for Trouble. School was out for the day and Pinocchio skipped down the cobblestone street, swinging his books. A small figure followed him, clenching an umbrella. It was Pinocchio's pal, Jiminy Cricket. "Wait for me," he called. Jiminy caught up with Pinocchio in front of the shop where the puppet lived with his father, Geppetto. "Father, I'm home," Pinocchio called. "Hello, son," said Geppetto, looking up from his workbench. "What are you making?" asked Pinocchio. "A cuckoo clock," Geppetto replied. He pointed to a bird cage. "I even brought home a real bird for a model. That way I can carve the cuckoo just right. May I take the bird out and play with him?" Pinocchio asked excitedly. "I'm afraid not," said Geppetto. "Please," begs Pinocchio. "I promise to be careful." Geppetto nodded toward Figaro the cat, who was excited watching the bird. "I'm sorry, son," he told Pinocchio. I wouldn't want Figaro to chase the bird, you see." So Pinocchio spent the afternoon in the workshop. He tried to keep busy with his schoolwork, but every few minutes he glanced over at the bird cage and imagined what fun it would be to have the little cuckoo perch on his finger. Then at the end of the day, Geppetto stepped out to go to the market. As soon as he left, Pinocchio hurried over to the bird cage. "Pinocchio," said Jiminy, "what are you doing?" "Taking the bird out so we can visit," the puppet replied. "Don't worry, it'll be fine." The cricket was not so sure. He had a feeling this was not a good idea. All this time, Figaro had been carefully watching the bird in the cage too. And the minute Pinocchio opened the cage door, the cat jumped onto the table. "Watch out!" Jiminy cried out as the cat leaped toward the open bird cage. Figaro was fast, but the little cuckoo was faster. The bird zipped out of the cage. Crash! Figaro hit the side of the cage. The cuckoo zoomed through the room. "See," Pinocchio told Jiminy, "I told you'd be fine." "I don't know," the cricket murmured. He frowned and shook his head. You shouldn't have disobeyed your father. That never turns out well." Happily, the cuckoo darted in and out of the rafters and began to investigate Geppetto's many clocks. The curious bird flew all around the workshop, and of course, wherever the bird went, Figaro went. Jiminy followed onto the wood sill to get a better view. Then all of a sudden, the cuckoo turned and began flying straight towards him. "Look out!" Pinocchio cried. Jiminy quickly leaped to one side as the cuckoo zoomed past him straight out the open window. Just then Geppetto walked in and spied the empty birdcage. "Geppetto! Pinocchio!" he yelled. "I told you not to open the cage. Now look what has happened. I'm very disappointed." Panicked, Pinocchio looked around and spotted Figaro. "I didn't do it," he lied to Geppetto. It was Figaro. He opened the birdcage and ate the cuckoo. "Figaro!" cried Geppetto. He scooped up the cat and began to scold him. Luckily for Pinocchio, Geppetto didn't notice the puppet's nose begin to grow, which happened every time Pinocchio lied. Pinocchio hurried to hide his growing nose from Geppetto. "I think I'll go to bed early tonight, Father," he said. "I'm not feeling very well." Of course, this was a lie too, and so by the time Pinocchio had gotten under the covers, his nose had grown and grown again. The next morning, Pinocchio got up early, extra early, and threw on his clothes. "Goodbye, Father, I'm off to school," he called to Geppetto, lying again. Jiminy followed the puppet. "Pinocchio," he said, "you must start telling the truth." "I can't," cried Pinocchio. "I'd get into much trouble." Instead, he hunted all over the village for the little cuckoo. He even brought a birdhouse with some seeds, hoping that might make the bird return. No matter how much Jiminy urged him, Pinocchio refused to tell the truth. Instead, he told lie after lie. and until his nose had started to grow, it grew longer and longer than it ever had before, and he still hadn't found the kookadoo. Maybe you're right, Jiminy, Pinocchio finally told Jiminy. Maybe it was time to tell the truth. He walked home slowly to his father. Figaro didn't really eat the kookadoo, Pinocchio told Geppetto when he got to the workshop. I opened the birdcage, and the kookadoo flew away. I'm sorry I disobeyed you, but most of all, I'm sorry I lied. And as Pinocchio spoke, his nose shrank until it was back to its normal size once again. I'm glad you finally told the truth, said Geppetto, and now I have a surprise to show you. Here on the table sat something covered with a sheet. Had his father finished carving the clock? Pinocchio wondered. Then Geppetto lifted the sheet to reveal the birdcage with the kookadoo inside. Where did you find him? Pinocchio asked. He found me, Geppetto exclaimed. I was working on the clock and he flew in through the window. I think he likes it here, Geppetto winked. He should, Pinocchio said. It's the best home anyone could ask for. After dinner, the kookadoo began to sing, kookadoo, kookadoo, and Geppetto played along on his concertia. Happily, Pinocchio danced with Figaro and Jiminy. Before they knew it, it was late, and everyone was sleepy. I think it's time for bed, said Geppetto, giving Pinocchio a big hug. Good night, Papa, said Pinocchio. I love you so much. And that's the truth. What have we learned today, my friends? We learned from Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket, Geppetto, the bird, and Figaro, the cat, that lying can get us in trouble, and telling the truth is the best thing to do. Do the best things today, my friends. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more Big Daddy Story Time. God bless.